10, reports, updates, and miscellaneous. Let's move on straight to administrative issues, city staff.
Okay, watershed. On a part that you're probably not extremely familiar with, there's called the Rushford Watershed District. And one of the gentlemen that we've been working with to give us greater insight as to how that impacts us is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Green, and he's employed out of the DNR Rochester office. He had approached staff about helping him secure financing that would take him into the next 2 to 3 years of continued research, which he uses dyes and techniques of that nature to try to determine how is that water affecting our groundwater and how is it moving in this area. And so we provided as much positive reinforcement as we could for his application, and got people to write letters and whatnot, and he informed us this week that he received a $500,000 source of funding that will keep his activities going for the next couple of years and assist us in that regard. So it's a good first step. It's not the only thing that's happening with the Rushford watershed area, but in addition to other things that are happening, it's certainly very good news and should help the city long term better understand where our water is coming from and what it does to us in that regard. Any questions on that? Enforcement of the existing water and sanitary sewer ordinances. They've been well documented, I think, for you in terms of you know that we have a sewer and a water ordinance which essentially says all persons that live in the city, if at all possible, if the utilities available, ought to be hooked up to the sewer and water. We have one or two cases brewing right now where individuals feel to the contrary to that, and we'll let the attorneys decide where that and how that evolves. But the attorney for the city, Mr. Chiglo, is asking the council, he wants to be sure that the council's on board, that you want to enforce those ordinances. Because if you don't want to enforce them, then they need to be changed. And his point is, he doesn't want to spend time and energy and money enforcing if the decision all along was to make a change. So, not that we have to decide this tonight, but that'll be his question to you. And it's a good one, because it's very clear if you enforce it, what direction you go. And if we have to change it, then we have a whole other set of discussions to go through. So as soon as you can, Mr. Mayor, let Mr. Chiglo know what your wishes are, then Terry can move forward as he'd like to. But his question to me, and I said, well, the only way I'll know is to ask, is will they enforce it? Because it's all predicated on enforcement.
I'm assuming that you're talking about the septic systems.
Septic and well systems to hook up. There are some people who are hesitant to hook up to the city water supply and help pay the monthly fees.
Okay, when those instances are found and determined that people are basically illegally hooking up well systems, private well systems, to the city water system and bypassing, creating those well issues that we had discovered right after the flood. What is the process? What's the legal damages or the legal process that they need to be responsible for?
Well, the requirement by the Minnesota Health Department is to immediately cut the systems and make sure that the city water supply is indeed protected and not exposed to other contaminants. And however that has to happen, the Public Works Department is charged with that responsibility. Part of these requests are people who have not a desire to have any sewer or any water from the city. even though it's available. And collectively, the community represents a water system and a sewer system that is dependent on, you know, this group of people belonging to that system and helping pay for it. They are provided without a conscious effort, obviously flood or fire protection, because there's hydrants within proximity of their homes. But for that, they are not known to us because they're not paying a fee for their monthly utility. They certainly are free to keep existing wells as long as they don't, you know, they're in good repair and are kept so, to use for watering, washing automobiles, that type of thing. But the ordinance says once that expires, your expectation as a city is that plumbers will not repair or hook those up again without them being properly registered, and then they're inspected every, I forget how many, every year, 3 years I think, to make sure that they stay compliant with the state health system. And of course, the Soil and Water Conservation came here after the flood and provided a tremendous amount of resources to help seal many of those wells, and many of the people were, you know, helped and got that done. We still have some outstanding ones that we need to work on, and that's where the attorney is going to have to take some type of action. And of course, his point is, it's all built around the ordinances that he feels are defensible and ought to be applied, but they need to be applied fairly and uniformly. And if, I think he would say to you, if you don't do that, it's like you're picking and choosing. You're saying, you'll click connect and we'll let you buy. And that's what will destroy the system. So, I suppose the kind of question I get, and so he wanted me to ask if that was what your intention is.
But certainly, we swore an oath to uphold the ordinances and the Constitution, so we better do it.
Well, and that's a good point. With the exception of if you had some thought about you wanted to change something, then now is the time to change it before he launches into that process, because once he starts, then his expectation is you will stand behind him. And he just wants to make sure that's what this council wants.
Can we have copies of those ordinances?
Yes, we can provide those for you.
I'd feel a lot more comfortable if he was here, just not specific examples, but just a couple of ideas of, you know, things that could happen, what we would do or what he would do in that case.
So would you like to invite him to the next meeting to explain that?
Personally, yes.
Yeah, that would be fine with me.
Rush, any other questions on that one?
I'll keep it short so it doesn't cost us much.
You know what the price is, $125 an hour, so I'll tell them to cut for over 30 minutes.